Hi friends, and welcome to Marvelous Friends, your home for all things Marvel Cinematic Universe and beyond. I'm Rhett, and today I'm going to be talking about who's going to be Spider-Man's next bestie moving forward in the MCU. Roll that credit. Spider-Man is a popular hero. Before the MCU launched its multiple franchises, it's safe to say that Spider-Man was the most recognizable and popular Marvel Comics character out on the market. Since I've been alive, we've seen multiple kids' cartoons, TV shows, plenty of merchandising, comics, and then of course now 3 film anthologies surrounding the character. He's a character for success and has used so multiple times throughout its history, and I would put money on it that he is going to be the focal point of the phases moving forward for the MCU, much like Iron Man and Captain America have been up to this point. Spider-Man holds the nickname the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and is a true quality of the character, often being paired off in the comics, and even now we've seen it a few times in the films. Often being teamed up in the comic books with other heroes, put into several different various supergroups, and even sometimes working with other villains to kind of save the day. And I expect to see him used very similarly in the films to kind of gauge the success and be used as an intro for the various characters as they enter the MCU. And it seems like that's just the case as we see various characters clinging to Spider-Man to be their introduction into the MCU. This all began with the merger of Disney and Fox, with one of the most interesting and popular counterpoint connections that Spider-Man has in the comics. With Deadpool now having his Mickey ears, the rumor wheels quickly started to spin, and the internets were all abuzz about Deadpool being the first of the Fox characters to enter the MCU, which makes logical sense. He has the most established franchise and a very popular one at that, and so it would make perfect sense for Disney to go with it rather than pulling a redo on the franchise. And luckily we received some reassurance that this will not be the case. Disney saying that they are okay to move ahead with Deadpool's more adult franchise. Of course, I will say I do think we'll see a little bit more of a reined-in version for him when he is teaming up with other heroes or in Avengers films, because we want to keep that at a PG-13 level. So obviously, he's going to be making his way into the MCU pretty soon. It seems that everyone took this a step further and started assuming that Deadpool will be showing up in Far From Home. Everyone that is, except for Sony. Sony and Marvel is still a partnership in the production and creation of the Spider-Man franchise, and so once they heard that Fox's Deadpool may be buddying up to their Spider-Man, they quickly threw out the idea of a Venom team-up, which launched a fleet of 1,000 rumor ships of their own. Of course, this makes sense as Sony would want to keep 2 of their characters in a franchise together, resulting in more money in their pocket. And on top of that, being kind of a partnership with Marvel, they do have final say in the creative direction of Spider-Man, and so they could easily trump a Deadpool team-up for one of their own with Venom. Either way, the addition of either of these characters would add a much darker and edgier tone to a much lighter version of Spider-Man than we've had in the previous franchises. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a much younger and more traditional origin story of Peter Parker, with him receiving his powers in high school. Though ambiguously aged, it's safe to say that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's versions were at youngest in college when they received their powers. Now, it also kind of brings up the issue that both of these characters tend to be the same age as Spider-Man when they're introduced, with Venom's hero typically the same age and a day-to-day rival of Peter Parker, and much more of an older version of Peter Parker being introduced when he meets Deadpool. Now, it isn't because of the age and the nature of these characters, though, that I don't think that we're going to be seeing them in Far From Home here in the next month and a half. Like in real estate, it's all about location, location, location. And in Spider-Man Far From Home, we're going to find Spider-Man far from home on a school trip to Europe. We know that Brock, aka Venom, is firmly located in the West Coast in San Francisco, and Deadpool, yes, does take place in New York along with Spidey, but Spider-Man is not home right now. Location, of course, is something easy to course correct with either of these other characters taking a plane trip to meet up with Spider-Man. However, I don't think that's something we're going to see in something that is such a plot-heavy film. Potentially introducing the idea of a multiverse through Mysterio, whether that's a lie or truth, is to be determined. It is going to be another villain-filled film with many villains being introduced and brought back, and potentially introducing the idea of a Sinister Six. We also know that he's going to be dealing with the loss of Tony Stark, as well as the 5-year time jump and what that means with all of his friends. And on top of that, obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be introducing him as one of their major players as a super-powered agent moving forward. On top of this, up to this point, it's safe to say that Sony's franchises and Fox franchises have been kind of working in the idea of the comics multiverse theory. So each of these kind of franchises and production companies being their own universe within the grander multiverse, and the MCU being more so like Earth 616. Now, to introduce both these and cross them over would take some kind of planning and would have to confirm that the multiverse idea is true. Therefore, introducing these two characters with on top of everything else in this film, I think is just one thing too many. Now, as far as dealing with this multiverse idea, I think Deadpool is an easy solution to be done at the very beginning of Deadpool 3. Deadpool is a character who's very self-aware and knows what and who he is as a character within a story, also known to break the fourth wall quite often. He could easily turn to the audience and course correct everything, explaining where he's been during all the events of the MCU and basically saying, I've been here the whole time. We saw something kind of like this as he course corrected the previous uses of Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds in various films, and that was a fantastic montage in Deadpool 2. Something similar to kind of what happened in Lion King 1.5 for all you Disney fans out there, where Timon and Pumbaa told all the story of Lion King from their point of view and kind of spliced themselves into all these major points. And I think that would be a great way to do this with Deadpool and just kind of be, yeah, I was here the whole time. Did you not see me? Here I am in the background of the New York City events, you know, stuff like that. I think that would be funny. It'd be very on trend for Deadpool. But multiverse kind of introduction of Venom is going to be a little bit more complicated. With Venom, we'd have to have a specific device to introduce him and have him cross over through this multiverse. I don't think it's going to be as simple as just saying, I was here the whole time, because we haven't really seen any of the MCU events take effect in Venom like we have seen in all the other MCU franchises, even if they don't directly interact with Thanos or the Snap or anything like that. But I will say, since Sony wants it, Sony will make it happen. Now, granted, this will take a little bit more of a work between Sony and Marvel, because, you know, for Sony to have Venom show up in Spider-Man, potentially Marvel will then want Venom to show up in other franchises and other team-up films. So this will take some talking with lawyers and a lot of paperwork, but like I said, if Sony wants it, Sony will get it because these are their characters and they will use them how they want. But I don't think it'll be happening fast enough to see him in the next film. Heck, I could even see maybe in Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man's school taking them on a trip to San Francisco for their senior year, because let's face it, this school takes their students on tons of trips. I mean, that would not surprise me in the least. And perhaps while in San Francisco, we realize that Venom is actually part of the same universe, and they run into each other because of their similar kind of power sets. Who knows? I don't know. However, I will say, though, on this point, I do suspect that we'll see Spider-Man 3 taking place, starting off with either his high school graduation or starting with college. So this would also present us with a slightly older, more mature version of Peter Parker, which would make these introductions a little bit more realistic as far as like the age and kind of maturity level of Spider-Man. Considering all this, though, I do believe that these negotiations are going to be happening soon, if they have not started already. With everything kind of leading to a Sinister Six film, I do believe that it would be kind of nice to see Spider-Man reaching out to either of these characters and introduce them into the MCU as like a helping hand for him to take on this evil team. More so, like I said, both these parties want this, and so it's easily something that's going to happen sometime down the road. It's just a matter of when down the road it will happen. I would love to see either of these team-ups, and I would be happy to have either of them in the MCU, and I hope actually we get both of them at some point. But just not now. I believe we'll have a Deadpool 3 of its own. I think we'll see some more Venom films by himself before he eventually makes his transition over. But as far as Far From Home goes, I think we have enough plot points to handle. I'm rambling, though, and I know I'm kind of getting on and talking about the same stuff over and over again, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I'd love to hear what you think, though. Do you think I'm wrong and that we'll see one of these in the films? Do you want to see either of these in the films? Is there one team-up that you'd like to see more so than the other? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, just to let you know, this is one part of a 3-video kind of mini-series on the channel where I talk about Spider-Man, his friends, villains, and team-ups. So check out those other 2 videos as well. For all other future videos, make sure to subscribe and set those alerts so you get all those informations when they come out for you guys. Until then, though, I love you all 3,000. I hope you have a marvelous rest of your day. And until then, bye, friend!